Ani, my name is Marcel, and I'm the curator here at Wanuskewin Heritage Park. Every few months, we create new exhibits. And today, we're going to take a look at What's in a Pot, our new exhibit. So, we're going to take a look at our pots that we have here on site, a look into what people ate, how they ate it, why they ate it, who ate it. It shows us a lot of information on the peoples that we inherited this land from. Now, before we begin, as you can see, I'm wearing what's called nitrile-free gloves. If you go into any gallery, any museum, you'll often see the curators or the museum workers holding these. And these gloves protect the objects from the oils in our hands and also protect ourselves from the objects. For generations, indigenous peoples of this land shaped vessels by hand. They used two different methods. One method would be coiling the clay and smoothing it over with their hands. The second method would be shaping them in rawhide sacks. And these sacks helped it create a structural integrity. Now, they wouldn't be fired in these sacks, but it was an often used method in Northern Plains pottery. These were very versatile containers, and they were used to boil meat, render fats, create stews, create soups, hold plants, hold water. They were used for a lot of different purposes, and they were a huge help to the people who owned them. Here at Wanuskewin, we both hold reproductions and excavated pottery sherds. Now, these sherds were found in archaeological excavations, and they were often found in places used for hunting and gathering and living spaces. And it's difficult to tell exactly how old they are unless they're found in situ. Now, essentially, what that means, when they are dug up, they're often found with other pieces like arrowheads. They're found with other rock materials, other lithics, other pottery pieces. And we can tell often based on how they were found what exactly their age range is. Now, all these pieces are pre-contact being about the 1500s, 1600s. Now, these were tempered with different materials. It could be ash, it could be bone, it could be plant fibers. Each fragment, each groove, each piece of burn residue is a clue as to why it was used, who used it, and what it was used for. They help us to understand not just how it was made, but how people lived and what they ate and what they valued. They were excavated outside of Estevan. Back in the 90s, these were donated to Wanuskewin Heritage Park. Now, here at Wanuskewin, we do hold quite a few of these pottery pieces, and they're often not shown to the public. But you have a sneak peek into our archaeological collections with this exhibit. These are what's called low-fire pots. They're handmade reproductions that reflect methods used by the peoples here in the Northern Plains a millennia ago and more. Now, they were often fired at between 800 to 1100 degrees Celsius, relatively low temperatures. Between you and me, that still seems pretty hot, but modern methods is often much, much higher. Now, these low firing methods mean that they stayed porous, but they were still great for cooking and holding food. Firing was done in open pits, and they often used wood, plant fibers, even bison dung to heat the fuel. The results were a strong but breathable vessel. Now, I'm showing off 4 of these vessels. Wanuskewin holds much, much more. Now, these vessels were made in about 1995. Wanuskewin, back in the 90s, when we first opened, we had a program where we taught the public pottery methods. Now, these would have been created by the teacher here we had on site. You can probably tell by now that there's 2 different potteries. One has a flat bottom, and these would have sat right on the embers. Now, there is another one with a more rounded bottom, and these would have been strung up much like a modern cauldron and hung over the fire. These vessels played a vital role in the trade networks that strung all across the plains. Now, often these same Northern Plains pottery pieces could be found all across the plains, into the states, and into the woodlands. Indigenous peoples have been harvesting plants, depending on the season, for thousands and thousands of years. Every plant here was taken right here on site. Now, gatherers would come here to Wanuskewin from all over the place to harvest on site, often during the summer and the fall. Now, these are some of the plants that can be found here. It's not all of them, but it is some of them. Now, if you want more information on these plants, or if you want to even go on a plant walk, make sure you get in contact with visitor services and they would be more than happy to take you out here on the land and see what grows. Now, you can find plants like the rosehip berries. You can find plants like the raspberry leaf. You can find marshmallow root and even cattails. There are dozens of different species of plants here that have been used for food, for medicines, and everything under the sun. These plants would often be carried in these vessels. Now, carrying these in clay pots helped to keep them dry, helped to keep them clean, and secure through the long winters here in Saskatchewan. I'm going to show you a few of the tools that you'll see here in the exhibit. Now, these tools would have been used to harvest the plants. This axe head, for example, could date as far back as 3,500 BCE. That means before the Common Era. Now, bear in mind, we don't have any specific date on when it was made. Again, often it depended on in situ, what it was found with, how it was found, and how deep did it go. So this axe head would have been hafted onto a wooden or bone handle, would have been used to chop wood, would have been used to chop roots, dig up roots. Now, this rock is actually a stone blade, and it was found with that same axe head. Now, they would have been used to process hides, to cut meat, to cut plants, and were a very versatile tool when you were harvesting on site here at places much like Wanuskewin. These are antler tines, and these would have been used to dig for tubers and also roots here at Wanuskewin. Now, these aren't 4,000, 5,000 years old like the other axe heads that you had seen. These antler tools, fashioned in 2019 using traditional methods, have never really gone out of style. Even though it is a traditional method, people still use them today. What you see here is a traditional method used for fishing. Now, fishermen and women would come here on site to fish something that looks much like this. This here is made from a hawthorn needle, and it's very, very sharp. And they would have been used to fish right here in the Opimaha Creek and other areas around Saskatoon. Now, they were often attached to a branch, and they would have been thrown out much like a modern fishing tool. And it would be unraveled, and they would throw it right in the creek and get whatever fish that they could. And those fish would have been used in soups and stews and whatever they wanted. But they would have been stored right in those pottery pots. Now, this hawthorn fish hook was made in about 2020 right here on site. And it was a traditional method and is still used to this day. Thank you for joining me here at Wanuskewin and taking a look into our newest exhibit, What's in a Pot. These pieces, some thousands of years old, help us connect with the ingenuity and traditions of Indigenous peoples of the Northern Plains. And if you have any questions about this exhibit or any other exhibits we have here at Wanuskewin, come to the front desk and ask for me. I hope to see you on site here. Miigwech. Thank you.